Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar on job searching after a setback. My name is Ellen Young. I'm at the Mizzou Alumni Association as the Assistant Director of Mizzou Maine Career and Professional Development. And in that role, I support our alumni in their career development endeavors, whether that's a career transition, preparing for an interview, working on their resume or a cover letter. If you are in need of services like that, we have them on our website, mizzou.com. You can access them through the Connect tab and the Career Development menu option. In that, we also have a directory of over 10 Mizzou alumni career coaches who are here to help you through those transitions, get that resume ready, and prepare for an interview. I welcome you to use those resources and reach out if you need individual support. Additionally, before we kick things off, we have two speakers to share with you today who are both members of the Mizzou Maine Business Network. The Mizzou Maine Business Network is an initiative that the Alumni Association launched in August of 2024 to promote alumni-owned businesses, connect alumni entrepreneurs, and provide support through networking and educational opportunities like the one we're at today. This is a completely free opportunity for people to join and talk about their business and be featured in our directory. Our first guest today is a member of the Business Network, and he's going to share a little bit about what his business is. Let me introduce Mr. Jeff Gibson, who has over 30 years of professional and business experience that includes military service, business, and U.S. government defense contracting. With a degree from Mizzou in economics and an MBA, Mr. Gibson's business experience includes a Fortune 100 multinational diversified technology company where he was responsible for strategic planning and company growth, and multiple roles in the U.S. defense industry spanning over 12 years, primarily in the services sector, where he was responsible for the leadership and growth of companies that provided staffing and service support to the U.S. government agencies. Most recently, Mr. Gibson is one of the founders of Opline, which is a data analytics company dedicated to improving how labor data is exchanged between the supply and demand sides of labor, leading to improved and more efficient talent sourcing and workforce development processes. Mr. Gibson is a member of the Mizzou Maine Business Network. We're so glad you're here. Welcome, Jeff. Can you tell us a little bit about your Mizzou background and more about Opline?
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet everybody. Hopefully I'll be able to put my email or contact information in the chat. So please feel free to reach out to me after this. But I'm always happy to talk to any group from Mizzou. I'm born in St. Louis, went to Mizzou and graduated in 88. And then I was a Navy RTC. So I owe the government some time back, which turned out to be a very rewarding and kind of life-shaping experience. But kind of fast forward now, I'm one of the founders of Opline, which is a really unique way to kind of value your skills and experiences against the whole landscape of the labor market. So to kind of give you some insight on the why and the how we built this platform. Why is because when we were working in defense contracting, we would compete against other companies. We wouldn't work for the government, and we'd be tasked to staff 60 to 100 positions across the globe in all these different functional areas. And it could be healthcare, it could be aviation, IT, logistics, you name it. So in doing so, we would use every tool available to us to find the individuals that we promised the government that we would provide them. And to be honest with you, we were underwhelmed, and it always ended up being a last minute scramble trying to find those individuals to fill those positions, even though they were right there in front of us and we just didn't know it. And one of the key findings that in that experience was that the whole job search placement process is very broken, and by broken I mean it's analog. You have a resume and a job description, and then there's someone in the middle trying to connect those, and they use kind of Boolean word search method. So we thought there has to be a better way of doing this. It's not a sustainable way to do it. So we all quit our day jobs about 7 years ago and built a platform that basically automates that alignment, not on word search, but more on code. So why we're different from like a traditional job board, like a ZipRecruiter or an Indeed. We go out every night into the labor market and we scrape over 15,000 companies' jobs that they have open in the labor market. So we bring those into our system, we organize it, we code it, we structure it in a very simple way that allows us to have a really clear picture of what the landscape of the labor market looks like. We know where all the accounting jobs are and what the density of those jobs are. We know where the engineering jobs, and we do that every single night. So we have a really good snapshot on what's out there and what they're at and what companies are asking for and what certifications and what skill sets and what specific certifications that are out there. So once we have that, we basically turn you into the search. Instead of you going onto a job board and searching marketing or data analyst, we, in a very simple but clever way, collect all your skills. We bundle those up and turn them into zeros and ones, and that becomes the search. And then we're able to match you against basically pull all the jobs that you align to into your portal. This is a free service to all job seekers. Our business model is based on companies hiring us to make their search for you easier and more efficient. We have over 10 Fortune 100 companies that use our platform now behind the scenes. If you go to Boeing, Wells Fargo, Verizon, Amazon, we're behind the scenes. We built this initially to help the veteran community find jobs, but it was built in a manner that it helps everybody. So not only veterans, we help students and grads, we help all professionals and trades, and then recently with the contraction of the U.S. government, we're focused on helping federal government employees as well. So I encourage you to go into it. It's opline.com, oplign.com, and try it out for yourself. Again, it's a free service. In addition to do the alignment, we also kind of have a whole module in there for career pathways. If you're at the crossroads on maybe you want to switch careers, maybe you were in a healthcare position and now you want to go to maybe accounting or business analyst or maybe even cybersecurity. We'll show you exactly what the requirements are out in the labor market for those positions. So you have a really good idea on what you're getting into. So hopefully with that, it gives you a good introduction to what we can do. And as I mentioned earlier, please reach out. And anyway.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeff. And we'll absolutely share your website and the LinkedIn link to your company, because I know after you and I met, I hopped on right away and said, what's this about? How can you use this resource and spread the word about the wonderful product you've created? And I love the fact that it came from a place of helping service members and veterans, and now you've expanded it to even reach more people.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, wonderful. Thanks for being here, Jeff.
Yep. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye. All right. Next up, we're going to get to our main topic about job searching after a setback. And I'm pleased to introduce our speaker today, Cord Harper. Cord Harper loves starting conversations with new people each day. And as being an executive career advisor and entrepreneur, he's able to do that most days. As CEO of Endeavor Agency Incorporated, Cord shares his knowledge about leadership, job searching, interviewing, and more through speaking engagements like this and articles published on Endeavor's website. In addition, Cord shares anonymous anecdotes of working with clients, as these stories can help other job searchers in their transitions. Cord lives here in Columbia, Missouri, and is an active Mizzou alum through his support of Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity. And then Cord is also a member of the Mizzou Made Business Network. Welcome, Cord.
Hey, Ellen, how are you?
Good to see you today.
Yeah, likewise. Go Mizzou, got the logo ready to go.
I love it. I didn't even pay you to do that. You just
Right, there's a free plug.
I love it. Well, I just love that you're here to talk about this topic today. I know it feels like every day we're hearing about different people in different industries facing career transitions. And when that's the topic, you're the guy to talk to. So thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
And really, do you want to share a little bit about your background and about Endeavor?
Absolutely. Well, I started the company a little over 14 years ago. Prior to that, I was in the recruiting business. I had about 50 or 60 recruiters working for me at one point for the company I led. And when I would plug in with them on a regular basis to do training, I would hear feedback from the other side, the candidates, who would say, gosh, that job sounds interesting, but it's not exactly what I want. But I really like you guys. You're knowledgeable, seem helpful. Can you help me as an individual go get what I want? Unfortunately, we had to say no, just because that's not what we were there to do. We were hired by an employer, and our mission was to sell that job. And we had to go talk to 50 other candidates right after that. So just as a courtesy, I wanted to be able to send that person somewhere to get the help they needed, because good stuff happens when you help people, right? I couldn't find anything. I was really disappointed. So eventually I woke up and said, there's a huge opportunity. Light bulb goes off. And I said, all right, that's what I'm going to start. So I started this company, Endeavor Agency, and the whole mission is to help individuals. It's the opposite of recruiting. Go through every step of this process from the very beginning all the way through the end. There's thousands of things in between that we help people with on a daily basis.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I know we've got a lot to cover today, and you and I chatted about some questions. So I think let's dive right in on those questions.
Yeah.
And for our people who are joining today, there's a question box on your screen. If you drop a question in there, we'll be able to add it to the screen and add it to our conversation. But I know the first topic we wanted to cover was, what are some tips you would recommend for folks if you think they're at potential for a layoff, or if you know it might be happening soon?
Yeah, the biggest word I like to use is prepare, right? So if you know this is coming, you think it's coming, or even if you have no idea if anything's coming, it's always good to be prepared. So in general, and we'll talk about this more here in just a second, but be prepared with all of your marketing materials, your skill sets, et cetera, that you're ready to go out into the marketplace. But if you think there's a specific event that's about to take place, there's some things that you'll want to do specifically for that. So if you have things in your audience, you might see I've got a painting here in my office that's very personal to me. Maybe I want to start slowly moving some of those things out, because it might be more than would fit in a cardboard box. We hate to think about that day coming through. If you've got an employment agreement or any kind of important documents that you signed coming in, it's a good idea to make sure you've got those. Most employees don't keep those things, and then they're kind of left in the lurch later, like, I don't know what kind of non-compete I signed, etc. So start gathering those things ahead of time. Also, take a look at your financial situation. Start going through, what are the resources that are available to me if I'm suddenly thrust into the job market and don't have, 6 months or a year of severance that are paid to me? What am I going to do to be able to feed myself and pay my bills during that time? A lot of good resources and things that we can help people through on that too, to figure that out. Start thinking of who your mentors are, who your team would be that you would turn to get some help. And probably the biggest thing, which will factor into a lot of the things we recommend, it's just breathe and recognize you're going to be fine. This isn't the end of your career. It's not the end of your life. It's just a bump in the road, and you're going to be able to figure out how to get around it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's people like you and there's people like me and your alumni networks and mentors who, those are the people who you can hopefully lean on and get feedback from them in those times too.
Absolutely.
Well, this is kind of a different one. We talked about how you can prepare, but what do you do if you're faced with a layoff or a firing and there's just no warning involved?
Oh, it's kind of like walking the green mile. You get that call from the HR department. You're walking in. There's the legal teams. You got a clue what's about to take place. Then you're going to have an emotional spike. That's normal. You're getting triggered. There's the fight or flight things that are going on. Who knows where that leads you if you're in a terrible position to actually manage those emotions. Again, the first and most important thing you can do is breathe. Slow the world down. Take everything one step at a time. Recognize that what's going to happen over the next 10, 15 minutes is not the end of your life or career. You don't have to sign anything that day. If you're getting pressured to, just politely decline. You don't want to sign anything there. You're not in an emotional position to review anything. Um, just take it all in. Maybe ask some questions. You don't need to try and negotiate anything. We help people negotiate exits all the time. Most importantly is you want to make a quiet and uneventful exit. It's not a time to go round up all your buddies and get the pitchforks and torches out and incite an insurrection, those kinds of things. You'll have time to follow up with them later. You want to get away from the property, then you can let your emotions go. When you're in a safe space, have that emotion. You'll need to release those emotions. That's important. Call your loved one, spouse, significant other, whoever that person is that you need to reach out to. And then those trusted advisors that you were preparing for ahead of time, whoever it is you need to reach out to, time to reach out to them and start to get, their guidance on how you can take the next steps forward. Past that, you'll want to document all the details of that conversation. What I always recommend is when you're in a little more of a calm space within the first 24 hours, send yourself an email. The importance of that is it's time and date stamped. So whatever you have to have later for the negotiations of your exit, it's all timely. You put down every detail that you can remember about that conversation and what was shared with you. And then you can start going through any of the documents that were presented to you and hopefully with your advisors as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you ended on that note. When you are faced with a situation and you get the packet, you get a document to sign, who do you recommend you talk to in those situations who can kind of read through that legalese of what a layoff looks like?
First are your trusted advisors, right? It might not be something that is your individual expertise. It doesn't necessarily have to be an attorney right away. What I would recommend is if there's some kind of concern that there might be a legal situation, you've been wrongfully terminated, discrimination, etc., then you might want to consider reaching out to an employment expert attorney. I would again recommend talk to an advisor or mentor ahead of time for that. There's a lot of key things that you'll want to do before you consider potentially suing your employer. I always recommend that's the last thing in the world you want to do is sue your previous employer, not because you weren't wrongfully terminated, is because now that's going to be an open court, public documents. And even if you're 100% right, the future employers who see that will suddenly get leery of hiring a person who did sue their previous employer. It's an unfortunate situation, but there's a lot of steps in between where you can still get things taken care of.
And that's great feedback. Thanks for that follow-up there. So I know with the situation of so many layoffs, there's people who may go a long time between those positions. What do you recommend for folks who experience that layoff or firing and they're taking a while to find that next opportunity and not having success? How do they navigate that?
Yeah, and this is not unusual. This is actually quite common. And so the hard part with this, it's a very emotional process when you're changing jobs, especially the later you get in your career. It's even more emotional and more challenging when you're through there. So the number one thing I recommend is if it's been more than 6 months, you've been in the job market, it's time to start looking at changing some tactics. The challenge here for individuals who are trying to do this on their own is that they're too close to it. They can't see what's not working and why, because this is the only thing they generally know. So it's important to get some of those mentors, people in their network, etc., some services like ours who can help them take a look at what have you been doing, what challenges have you experienced, what are some other options that you can look at. A lot of people haven't even thought of several of the options that could be available to them, or the options they're considering get them out of a comfort zone. We become our own worst enemies in these kinds of situations because the things that keep us from doing what we need are our own comfort zone barriers. We create our own blocks, and helping somebody overcome those barriers that are internal is the number one thing we do on a daily basis.
That's great feedback. I know you want it to be a quick turnaround. You want to find that next position, but that's not always the case, I'm sure.
It almost always takes longer than what any of us appreciate, so it's important that you prepare for that.
Just the timeline of when a job is posted to when interviews start to when you get an offer to when you actually start, that could be 90 days, even if you just found
Easily.
it right then.
Yeah, for an executive level or senior professional level position, easily 90 days. If you are in the first wave of interviews, it could be 90 days before that last wave and hiring decision is made. That's if everything goes swimmingly and everybody's right on track with the timeline.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we've talked about our advisors, our mentors, and it's really leading us to the topic of networking. Can you talk about kind of the importance of networking in a job search and finding your next step?
Yeah, networking is everything. The old adage of it's not about what you know, it's who you know. Absolutely. Now, eventually, it's about what you know. Also, you have to be able to do the job, right? So it's important to have both of those. But networking is absolutely everything because people are the ones who make hiring decisions about other people. So it's a very human process. Now, there are technological advancements, AI, all kinds of great things that make things a little more helpful and more efficient. But ultimately, it's going to come down to you as an individual having a conversation with another person. Mega bonus points if that person knows you and likes you. And it doesn't have to be somebody you've known for years. It could be somebody you just connected with. Maybe you just met them at a Mizzou Made Coffee. You get together, you have a good time. By the way, I had several great things come out of that last one, so thank you.
Love it.
Excellent. So the networking, whether it's in person, whether it's through your alumni network like Mizzou, whether it's through church, former employer groups that you're a part of, LinkedIn is a gargantuan tool, fantastic tool, but most people don't know how to effectively use it and to reach out to a lot of people they don't know. Here come those comfort zone barriers again. Reaching out to a lot of people you don't know is very few people's favorite thing to do. And you're going to need some help nudging out of those comfort zones. Somebody like an Ellen, for all of our listeners, who will say, hey, let's get 20 people together, have coffee, and have a shared common interest like Go Tigers.
I love that. I think the challenge I face when we talk about LinkedIn is you might message 10 people and hear back from 4, and that's pretty good. Those are 4
That's
yeses,
phenomenal.
and
Yep.
it's not a personal thing, but I know it feels very personal when we've talked about the emotions and just the state of mind you might be in.
Yeah, and we have to be a little bit of a polite professional pest. Nobody wants to be that pest, but if you're doing it with a smile and you're doing it very friendly, those are the people who break through. Those are the people who actually get the conversations. The ones who say, well, I don't want to be a bother, and they go weeks and weeks and weeks in between any messages. Chances are that person didn't even see the message, and we're in our own heads thinking, oh, I don't want to be a bother.
Right, right. And I'll put in a plug, Cord. You mentioned our coffee connections. We've had a few networking meetups just where, yeah, about 20 Mizzou alumni have come together to share this common opportunity. And that was a great group opportunity. But I imagine the amount of times I know I have coffee with people a few times a week. And to ask someone, hey, would you go to coffee with me? That might cost $5, but it could be a great conversation and grow your network.
Absolutely. And there's so many great networking opportunities. There's a whole series of different networking opportunities. We've prepared articles and things on for how to help people through that. And once you overcome those initial barriers, and if you can identify, someone like yourself who can be that person who will make some introduction, you're off and running.
Definitely. Well, let's see. Our next question. How can job seekers who have been laid off respond to the interview question, why did you leave your last job?
Yeah, this is one of the big ones that trips people up right away because, again, we get in our own head. We're worried about what other people are going to think. We prepare every single client for this question along with dozens of others when we get in there. So the main thing is we're worried. Oh my gosh, we just went through a layoff. Maybe we got fired for cause. And then we think life is over, career's over, it's horrible, we're in this dark place. Well, to answer the question, you want to start off very positive, transition to hit the question head on, and transition out to positive. So as an example, yes, I came on board with XYZ company because it was a wonderful organization who seemingly looked like everything I was looking for. They recruited me in. The promises that were made sound exactly like what I wanted. The challenge was after a few months, I began to see that things weren't exactly as advertised. The company was not in great financial shape. That's not going to come out in the honeymoon period of an interview. I tried diligently to work through some things and help the company get on its feet. Unfortunately, they finally had to make a decision and right size the company, and that did affect me. No fun. I'm still who I am. I'm looking for the next team where I can bring my talents and skills and help another company grow.
That's a great response. And what I also love about it is the length of it, that you just told a story and you didn't make it personal and told the complete story and ended it.
Yeah, the
Sometimes that's
more
hard.
we talk, because we feel like we have to be, this is going to show my age, but Ricky Ricardo back in I Love Lucy, and we want to explain everything, right? We want to go through and try and give this long backstory. The more you talk, the more they start smelling smoke and looking for a fire. Just keep it simple, short, and transition out.
Wonderful. Well, we mentioned that some of our current job seekers going through layoffs may have been like long careers in certain positions. So may be facing ageism in an interview process. Can you walk through what that might look like and how to navigate?
Absolutely. And we get this one all the time because so many of our clients as executives are past the age of 50, and we start to definitely see this. So the first thing we like to talk about is ageism real? Does it exist? Absolutely. It's a real thing. Why does it exist? It's not because employers or interviewers hate us old guys. It's because they have their own interests that they're taking a look at. So there's really four things that are going through their head. The first one is, how much longer does this person want to work? Right? Because every employer wants to think, hey, we're going to hire this person. They're going to be there at least 10 years, maybe 20, retire, get the gold pocket watch, etc. When we put an expiration date on ourselves as a candidate, it starts a problem. If you start to say, well, you know what, I'm looking at retiring here in the next few years and I want to have one good more run to go through and be out the door, they are immediately losing interest because they're like, dang, we just got you trained and now you're going to get in productive and you're thinking about taking advantage of our retirement benefits. Instead, answer the question in a similar way. So they can't ask the question directly or they'll get in trouble in most cases. Sometimes they do. Instead, you can talk about, you know what, I love what I do. I can't wait to get up every day and go do it. So, if the good Lord keeps me healthy and I'm in great shape now, then I want to keep doing it as long as I can. I can't wait to do that for long term.
Love that.
Second big part is energy levels. So they're worried about, as we start getting to a certain age, does this person have the energy level to stay up with a busy job? Because they know how busy this is going to be. They shouldn't ask the question again, but they're thinking it. So visibly and proactively, we have to answer that with, I'm in great shape. I work out. I eat healthy. I run circles around people, much my junior. Here are the things that I do on a regular basis to keep myself active. And man, I can't wait to go at it. It's not just what you say, it's also how you exhibit that. If you look tired and you're slumped back in your chair and your clothes look like they're 15 years old, then sure, they're going to start to think that as well. Third thing is change. How does this person approach change? The market is constantly changing. Do they stay apprised of changes? Do they welcome change? Are they agents of change? Or do they say, I've been doing it this way for 25 years. I'm going to keep doing it. Get off my lawn, right? I have to make sure I'm not that curmudgeon sometimes. Proactively, you got to talk about how you are the action driver of change, how you're staying apprised of change and what you're doing to stay up with the latest and greatest. And then the fourth thing is it's a multi-generational workforce. There could be 5 generations working inside the same building. And how do you handle that? Is that something you embrace? Talk about, not only do you learn things from people much younger than you and you welcome that, it energizes you, but you also love the idea of being a mentor to give back, helping them learn the hard lessons you've already learned on somebody else's nickel, so they're not making that on the company's dime.
That's great feedback. There's so much to consider that we probably don't think about if you're just applying for a job the first time. But when you reach that point in your career, you can become set and need that advice for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, we have some questions coming in from the folks watching. Are there any other tidbits of info or topics you want to cover before we move over to those?
Main thing I'll leave with is, before we get into questions, is this is an incredibly emotional process, and somebody who's trying to do this all on their own is at a huge disadvantage. So you need a team of people. You need people who have the resources, the expertise, the time available, who can help you through this very long and grueling process.
Definitely. And I think there's 2 of us on the call right here, me and you.
All right.
We are here for people. Well, let's get to some questions from folks who are watching. This one says, what's the best approach when you discover a company that seems like the right fit, maybe your dream company, but they actually don't have any active job postings right now?
Fantastic question. This is something we recommend all the time to job seekers because more than 80% of all jobs are filled without ever being advertised. Those hidden jobs, et cetera, word of mouth. Well, employers prefer to hire people from their network first. So before the HR talent team even learns that there is a need, they're going to work their own internal network, the leaders in those departments, to see who they know. So my strongest recommendation is do as much networking inside that company as you can. LinkedIn's a fantastic tool for it. You can see who all the players are there, reach out, start conversations. Oftentimes they create jobs when the right talent shows up at their door. So especially if it's a growing company and they're saying, wow, we need good people, and employers are pulling their hair out saying, we can't find the good people that we need. Well, if you just show up on their doorstep and keep knocking on the door, they go, oh, where you been this whole time?
There you are. And that's good. That calls back to what you mentioned about following up, that sometimes it takes a few messages or a few LinkedIn emails, anything like that.
Yeah, perseverance.
Well, this is a follow-up to that question. So when you connect with those people on LinkedIn or you find who they are, who work at the company you're interested in, what are some questions or conversation topics you would recommend asking them?
I love using open-ended questions, questions that get them talking and really sharing what they're going through. Open-ended questions start with words like what and how. I avoid why questions because why brings in judgment, and then we feel awkward, like, I don't know why I do that. Stop asking me. So good what questions, what are your big objectives over these next, 12 months? What are you trying to accomplish? And then what are the chief barriers and challenges you have for being able to reach that? Another one that you could ask is, what are some of the key attributes you're looking for to know, is this the right person for our team? Is this the person who's going to help us overcome those challenges and reach those goals? And how do you know when you see that person, right? Interviewing is an art form. It's not really an objective thing. So what's jumping out at you in a conversation or an interview that makes you go, that's the person, we need her, call off the search, we got her?
Love it. I know it's tough to ask those questions, so having some nuggets of wisdom is helpful for sure. All right, we've got another one. Do you recommend referring to a layoff on a resume? I've seen this sometimes where a bullet point might include position eliminated, job force reduction, and kind of what you mentioned, how you would refer to it in an interview. What do you recommend here?
Yeah, if it's a layoff, it had nothing to do with you, right? So in our head, we're worried, oh my gosh, I'm damaged goods, I'm no good, the company didn't want me, and we go into this spiral, but it had nothing to do with you. So if you have it on your resume, hey, I was there for 8 months, and now so the questions going through the employer's head, that's a pretty short tenure. Why were they only there? And you answered the question, well, I was laid off, that's why it ended, that's why I'm in the job market. No problem. Now they're going to ask you about that. Oh, so tell me about the layoff, what you went through there. And that answer I gave just a moment ago is a perfect example for that. You don't have to list the reason for leaving every single job that you were there. You have to be ready to answer the question when it's asked in an interview, especially if you were only there for a short period of time, right? Be ready to address that in the same kind of way. Positive, hit it straight on, positive, transition out.
Yeah, I like that a lot because if you're forward facing with it, you know the question is coming, you can prepare what you want to say.
Yeah, and just be straight up, right? Hey, a good company. I loved all the people there. Was doing some fantastic work. Unfortunately, hit a bump in the road, lost their biggest client. The next round of funding didn't come in, whatever that thing was, and they had to restructure. Unfortunately, I was one who got laid off. I think only the best of them, and now I'm ready to take my skills and talents to another team. Glad we're here talking today.
Definitely. Okay, this is an entrepreneurial question. So this is your wheelhouse in two ways. Do you have any tips for failed entrepreneurs who want to return to the corporate world? And I don't love that it says failed. Like, I think
Oh,
it's
great.
the
I'm a failed entrepreneur. I've had opportunities that didn't go well. Be ready to talk about it confidently, right? We learn things not from success. We learn things from failure. We don't really learn a whole lot from success. A lot of times we had success and we had no idea how we got there and what happened to it. So we don't know how to replicate it. When we have a failure, that lesson sticks with us and you'll never forget those kinds of things. So what it does show is, one, I was ready to jump in and I was going to take the opportunity. I was going to go for it. I invested in it. I learned a lot of things. So be ready to talk about the things you learn. If you go into it hat in hand, like, oh, I failed, I was terrible, I didn't do anything, then you look like Eeyore. Nobody wants to hire Eeyore, right? Be a Tigger, haha, Mizzou. Everybody loves hanging out with Tigger, even though he breaks things. Tiggers have all kinds of failures on a regular basis, but guess what? He's Winnie the Pooh's best friend in most cases, right?
love it. Love a Winnie the Pooh callback. Well, that was our last question. I know I'm going to share some slides that include your information so that people know how to find you. LinkedIn is the way to go for those connections. So there's Cord's information, and we'll send this out to our folks who are live with us today and those who registered and want to watch at a later date. And then if you want to learn more about Endeavor Agency and see what those services are and those informational articles and tidbits on the website, this is where you can do that. I'll leave that up for a minute so you can scan the QR code. Cord, any final parting words of wisdom that we should take with us today?
Of course, I would say feel free to contact us if you think you're getting ready to go through something like this. We've helped a lot of people negotiate exits, transition, and land on their feet, and then later go, wow, this was amazing. And I'm looking forward to the next coffee, so can't wait for the next Mizzou Made Networking.
Love it. You teed me up for this. If you're interested in in-person opportunities like our coffee meetups and other Mizzou Alumni Association events, or virtual opportunities like this webinar today on career development topics, networking topics, business topics, check out mizzou.com/events. And that's your spot to register for all of our upcoming stuff. We've got content all the way into August at this point. So we've got a full slate, and look forward to seeing everybody at our next event. And Cord, just thanks so much for sharing this opportunity and just sharing this feedback with our alumni and friends audience.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellen. MIZ.
MIZ, ZOU.